the caliber of our life, the quality of our life, the experience of our life, it all really boils down to how we respond to the ebb of life, how we respond to problems. Do our problems become mountains that are unsurpassable, or do they become little moles? Do they become possibilities? How do we respond to anything that interrupts the flow of our life? Some of us find anything that interrupts our flow very jarring. And jarring it is, right? When you're nicely trudging along in your life, and then suddenly a life event, a life situation throws you off track. Do you find another track? Or do you insist that you must go back on that very same track? How do you respond to life when you're thrown off balance? Right? It all really boils down to your stress response, your consciousness. Your stress response is what kicks in when we are presented with situations, life events that initially we perceive as problematic. Initially, they throw us off guard, right? And depending on how we respond to these problems, it determines our entire future. What comes to us, right, will almost hinge on how we respond right now to what we perceive as a hindrance, a problem, or what we call the ebb in the flow of life. We can experience life as being full of suffering, full of problems, or we can experience life as being full of possibilities. I myself recently, at an event at which we were hosting our sister businesses, met a man, a very proud father, whose son wanted to work for the Navy, but he couldn't get through some of the tests as he is colorblind. Yet, he went on to do other things in which he became extremely successful, and he was recruited by other companies. And the father was very proudly telling me about what the son is doing and how he is right now, right? So, what could have been perceived as a lifelong sentence, what could have been perceived as, you're knocking at one door and the door keeps closing, another one, and it goes on to 100 doors, and you just don't seem to be making any headway, right? And as this is happening, rather than losing hope, or rather than you crumbling to pieces, right? You just keep going, and you will either turn that problem into a possibility, or you'll find another possibility, and maybe what is not working, you leave it and find something else. How we respond to this really will determine the experience we're having of life. Now, if it is a problem and it's really shook you, right? How long is it going to last for? How long are you going to be in that state of panic? How long are you going to remain in your activated stress response? The longer we are, right, it'll come to a point when the primary event setting you into a place of chronic stress. You may have already forgotten or put it in a corner or somewhere, at least consciously, right? But your threshold to handle future problems or any future ebbs that may not even be an ebb, but you will be quick to perceive them as the ebb as opposed to a flow of life, because remember, your threshold has dropped. You will then have an experience of life that is expecting for more ebbs. It is expecting more problems. It is now come to a point where you would feel, right, life is just, there's too many problems. There's always problems, right? Or when we've turned this problem around into a possibility, right? And it often happens when you're already an existing state of joy, not really looking for any purposes in anything, but everything that you do is an act of joy. And you'll find that whatever is thrown at you, whatever life presents to you, you're able to embrace it, right? Even if it doesn't work out, it does not become problematic. And if it does, you're able to then find solutions. You move from a problem. So from a problem mindset, you move to a possibility mindset. And when we are in our possibility mindset, you're in your abundance mindset. When you're in your abundance mindset, you are your joyful self. And there is really not much that can unhinge the joyful self, right? So look back into how you've been dealing with any problems and whether we've been turning these into possibilities, whether we've got our blinkers on, and whether we can just simply open ourselves to everything else that's out there that is uncharted, that we've not even gone in as much as trying to experience what there is on the other side. It's all about being open. Open yourselves as much as the ebbs may sometimes have taken it out of us, right? For a moment, yes, it might jolt you, but then after a while, our response to it will be constructive, not destructive. When it's a destructive response, it becomes a destructive reaction that creates a destructive cycle that then turns into self-sabotage, that then turns into limiting yourself, a self-imposed limitation. And then we really need to go back to the drawing board and ask ourselves, when did I first learn how to deal with stress? And that's when you then go back into trying to heal, or at least acknowledging parts of yourself that may need a new program in place that tells you, we will have some situations that may not turn out as you have imagined them to turn out, but you can turn them around. It's all down to the energy of you to change the matter around you. So much love. Take care of yourselves and each other.